everyone, welcome back to Unit 12, review number 2. I have the answer key filled out so it moves a little faster for us. But for the directions 1 through 4, they want you to go ahead and list the amplitude A, the frequency, which is B. The period is 2 pi divided by my frequency, and my midline is my shift up or down, and that's always an equation, y is equal to. So when you're in an equation, this right here, the number out in front of sine and cosine, that's your amplitude, your A. This right here inside here is your frequency, how many times you will see the sine curve from 0 to 360. And this right here is your midline. So if you take a look here, this negative, again, I know we talked about this is your reflection. So you'll see that that's a reflection, that is not the amplitude. So your amplitude is how high it goes, that's at 6. Your frequency is 5. Notice that this is in degree. This one right here is in degree. This one right here, pi over 3, that's in radian. So you have to be able to tell the difference between the two. That means you would see 5 sine curves from 0 to 360. Your period is 2 pi divided by your frequency, so it's 2 pi divided by 5. A lot of you guys, if you're using degree, you can have 360 divided by pi. You can do that too if you want to, and that would work out fine too, which we would get 72. So that means one cycle is going to be between 0 and 72, and then you'll start that next cycle and there'll be 5 from 0 to 360. Number 2, your amplitude is right out in front. That's going to be 1. This right here is your frequency, pi over 3. Your period is 2 pi divided by 3, and that's equal to 6. You guys can do 2 pi divided by pi over 3. We multiply by the reciprocal, 2 pi times 3 over pi. You guys can see that those pi's will cancel out, and 2 times 3 will give you 6. You can also throw that into your calculator, alpha y equals. You can hit number 1, alpha y equals, and you can have 2 pi divided by pi over 3, and you'll get 6, okay? So either way, you can go ahead and simplify that using your calculator or doing it that way. And this right here is your midline, y is equal to -4, okay? Here's your amplitude, your frequency, 1/2 pi. You can just write 1/2 pi, or you can know that that's pi over 2. And then, of course, the period is 2 pi divided by pi over 2, which is equal to 4. And your midline is y is equal to 0. And lastly, that was in radian. You can see anything that you see pi is in radian. This is in degree. So the amplitude is 1/4. The frequency is 1/3. My period is 2 pi divided by 1/3, which is 6 pi. And of course, you'll have your midline at y is equal to 3. Hey, now. Okay, sorry about that. My dogs are, dog sitting my mom's dog, and my dog's getting a little excited over here. Okay, so the max and the min, the way you guys go ahead and find that, your max is your amplitude, the midline, plus the amplitude. The min is the midline minus the amplitude, okay? So this one right here doesn't have a midline, so it would be 0 plus 40 for your max, which would give you 40. The min would be 0 minus 40, which would give you -40. Your max, your midline, which is 100, plus your amplitude. Make sure you guys realize your amplitude is 300. Your midline minus your amplitude, -200. Okay, midline, -100 plus your amplitude, which is 50. You get -50. -100 minus this midline, your amplitude, gives you -150. And last but not least, you have your midline plus your amplitude, midline minus your amplitude. Okay, to go ahead and sketch, there's two ways. We talked about setting up your graphing calculator. If you guys want to go ahead and follow this, make sure that you check your mode. So for this one right here, we're going to be in degree mode. So you guys would hit mode and make sure that you are in degree, which I was not. Then you would go to your window and you have to change it from 0 to 360. And my scale will be by 45. And then -10 to +10, and I'll have my scale of 1. And then make sure you do your table setup. I want to set up at 0 and go up by 45, okay? And once you guys get that, you guys can go ahead and hit your y equals. I'm going to clear that. We're left with 3 cosine 2x plus 1. You guys can go right to your table and list your table values from 0 to 360. So at 0 it would be 4. At 45, make sure you guys have 45. You guys would go ahead and go up to 1, so forth and so on. Some of you may be getting really good at just graphing the cosine curve and knowing that you have to move this up 2 times. This is your amplitude, so you're going to start at 3, 1, 2, 3, and end at 3 and go down. But everything, all your points are going to be shifted up 1, so that's why that's shifted up 1 unit, okay? So however you go ahead and do this, it's fine. Some of you, if you're using the calculator, fine. Some of you guys, if you guys are just knowing that cosine, when you guys see the cosine, you're focusing in on your 5 key points. 0, we have to go to 45, 90, 135, 180, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because you guys are going ahead and going from, your period is from 0 to pi. So from 0 to 180, you have to include your 5 key points. We know that we're going to start at the amplitude, end at the amplitude. We're going to go to 0, down to -3, 0 up to 3, and then you would change the y value by adding, moving each one of those points up 1 point, okay? Because you're adding there, and then you would do that. All right, so your amplitude is 3, the frequency is 2, the period right here is 2 pi divided by 2, which is 180. That means you're going to see one cycle from 0 to 180, the next one from 180 to 360, and your equation of your midline, y is equal to 1, okay? This is your midline right here, y is equal to 1. Okay, moving right along. This one you're going from -360 to +360. And again, this is in degree mode. You can throw that, once you have your calculator set up, y is equal to -3 cosine alpha y equals 1/2 x plus 0. And you can go to your table and get your table values. Now, I want you guys, if you're using your calculator, you can look at 45, that's -2. You wouldn't graph that if it's a decimal. The only numbers that you're going to go ahead and graph are the nice numbers. So it would be 0. I think I put cosine in. I can tell already by these points right here. So let me go back. I did put cosine. I need to put sine in. Okay, go back to my table. All right, so I'm going to start at 0, 0. Sine starts at 0, ends at 0, and then the next point would be at 180, and you would be going down to -3, and then you would have to go to 360 and plot all those points too, okay? But again, you're not plotting the decimals, you're just plotting the nice whole numbers when you see that in your calculator. If you're not going to use this, you guys focus in on your key points. You're starting at 0, you're ending at 0. Now, this is only half the sine curve. So when you're taking a look at sine, you start at 0, midway back to 0. You're only going to focus in on half of that, and it is reflected, so it's flipped over. So you're really focusing in on only these 3 points here because you're only seeing half the curve, okay? All right, so your amplitude is 3, your frequency is 1/2, the period is 2 pi divided by 1/2, which is 4 pi. That means in order to see one full cycle, you would have to go from 0 to 4 pi, which is 720 degrees. Your equation, the midline, is y is equal to 0. All right, question number 11, you can cross right off. We are not going to be focusing in on 11. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. That's the first part. I will post the second part for you. So have a wonderful day, and I will, if you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you.